Reproductive rights. Many thanks for joining us. And let's just head straight into this big contentious legal matter, which is about women and girls' access to constitutional rights to safe abortion. Now, 10 years on, Evelyn, maybe you can talk to us about the state of the implementation of this particular constitutional provision and what have been the missed opportunities and gaps.
Good evening. Yes, so we are marking the 10th anniversary of the Constitution of Kenya. We have had challenges in the implementation of this Constitution, but we appreciate that the Constitution itself gave us several milestones. When you look at the rights, the right to health, for example, it provides for right to health, including reproductive health care. And when you look at Article 26 of the Constitution, it allows for abortion when, in the opinion of a trained health professional, the life or health of the woman is in danger, or in cases of emergency. And therefore, while we celebrate these provisions of the Constitution, it's imperative that we stop and reflect and we ask ourselves, how much have we achieved this far? And the truth is, a lot of this has remained on paper and we have made very little progress to date.
And your organization did a study and an analysis, rather, of 29 abortion-related charges and offenses in 6 high court stations across the country. And in this study, you mentioned that you had interviews with sexual and reproductive health medical experts, women and girls service providers. What stood out in your findings, particularly looking at the alarming number of deaths that arise from unsafe abortions?
We looked at the level of implementation within the legal sector. We looked at how the police are conducting investigations on abortion cases and abortion-related charges. We also looked at how the courts are adjudicating these cases. And 3 things stood out for us. One, that there is a lot of stigma in the public domain, but also within the justice institutions, that women, first of all, are treated without dignity. We saw instances where women who are bleeding and are in need of emergency care are not taken to health facilities for care, but are instead rushed to police so that they are charged without a care about their own health. We also saw that there's a lot of stereotyping within the justice sector, whether it's within prosecution and even in the adjudication of cases. We saw that mostly women are not believed when they share their version of the story, or how they had abortions, for instance. We saw in one of the cases that a woman who was charged in court for concealment of birth, she gave her evidence in court and she said that the abortion was spontaneous. No other evidence was adduced in court to rebut her assertion, but nonetheless, she was convicted and sentenced to 18 months imprisonment. We also saw instances where, a woman had been charged and the prosecution adduced evidence in court where they were saying that they had done an examination of this woman and found that there was a termination of pregnancy. And when you look at this, that did not appreciate that there are several reasons why a woman may lose her pregnancy. It may be spontaneous, and it's not always that, every lost pregnancy has been induced by a woman in the manner that we see the justice sector look at it.
Right, and just to get in there, Evelyn, just to clarify on that, because the big elephant in the room when this conversation is always had, always comes to how you address the question of health versus choice. And this can be the reason why most women are ignored and say that this is not a matter of a medical emergency, but a choice. How can we start addressing this huge impediment to the health and well-being of women?
I think one of the things that we found out, which is critical in this conversation, is when you look at even the justice sector and the adjudication of cases, these are going on as though Article 26(4) of the Constitution that provides for abortion never happened. We must reflect on what we have been given in our Constitution, which allows for abortion under circumstances when the life of the woman is in danger, when the health of the woman is in danger, and in cases of emergency. It is therefore the role of the Ministry of Health and the legislators to explain the parameters of this. This is why it's important for us to have a legislative framework. And this is also why it's important for the Ministry of Health to have clear standards and guidelines that medical providers can then use in the provision of services. Without this, we are also having a medical provider sector that is lacking in confidence because of the harassment that they always get from the police, but also because the Ministry of Health itself is issuing contradictory statements on the exact position of the status of abortion in Kenya. Right,
Evelyn, there's so much to talk about. Unfortunately, we are really short of time, but hopefully we can continue this conversation, not just here, but in our various platforms, because a lot to be talked about with regard to sexual and reproductive health and rights. Of course, there also is the Reproductive Healthcare Bill, which is still being debated at the Senate. So much to be talked about, so much to be considered regarding this matter in the country. Many thanks for joining us tonight. Evelyn Opondo there, who is the Senior Regional Director, Africa at the Center for Reproductive Rights. We are taking another break here on KTN Prime. I'll be back shortly with business news.